During World War II, Turkey found itself in an extraordinarily delicate position. Strategically located at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, controlling the vital Bosporus and Dardanelles Straits, Turkey's geopolitical importance was immense. Yet, unlike many of its neighbors, Turkey managed to maintain a stance of neutrality for most of the war, skillfully balancing pressure from both the Axis and Allied powers. This tightrope walk, often described as neutrality on a knife's edge, defined Turkey's wartime diplomacy and had profound consequences for its post-war future. The strategic stakes. Turkey's location made it a coveted prize for both the Allies and the Axis. Control of the Turkish Straits meant command over naval access between the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. For the Soviets, it was a lifeline. For the British, a critical maritime passage. For Germany, control of Turkey could help secure the southeastern flank and threaten British positions in the Middle East. From 1939 onward, both Axis and Allied powers courted Turkey aggressively. The Allies hoped to keep Turkey in the war on their side or at least ensure it denied Germany passage. Germany, in turn, sought to draw Turkey closer or neutralize its strategic significance. Early war years, declaring neutrality. When World War II broke out in 1939, Turkey declared neutrality, a stance supported by a desire to avoid the devastation seen in neighboring countries during World War I. Turkey's leadership, under President İsmet İnönü, was determined to keep the country out of direct conflict while modernizing and strengthening the military as a deterrent. This policy was maintained despite intense diplomatic pressure. Turkey signed a non-aggression pact with Germany in June 1941, even as it strengthened ties with Britain and the Soviet Union. Balancing relations with both sides. Turkey's neutrality was not passive. It was a dynamic balancing act. Economic relations. Turkey supplied both sides with key raw materials, including chrome, essential for wartime manufacturing. Military preparedness. Turkey undertook significant military reforms, expanding and modernizing its armed forces to deter invasion. Diplomatic maneuvering. Turkish diplomats skillfully negotiated trade deals, non-aggression pacts, and covert intelligence sharing to maintain autonomy. Yet, Turkey also faced existential threats. The Soviet Union eyed Turkish territory suspiciously, and Germany's rapid expansion across the Balkans brought Axis forces to Turkey's doorstep. The threat of invasion and pressure. Throughout the war, Turkey was under constant threat from both Axis and Allied sides. The Axis powers repeatedly pressured Turkey to join the war on their side or at least allow transit of troops and supplies. The Allies, particularly Britain, wanted Turkey to open a second front against Axis forces in the Balkans. The Soviet Union demanded control or influence over the Turkish Straits, increasing tension. In 1943, as the tide of war turned against Germany, Turkey intensified diplomatic efforts to maintain neutrality while preparing for any eventuality. Entering the war, a symbolic move. Turkey remained neutral until February 1945, when it declared war on Germany and Japan. This declaration was largely symbolic, motivated by a desire to join the United Nations and the post-war international order. Turkish troops did not see combat. Legacy and impact. Turkey's neutrality during World War II had significant consequences. It avoided the destruction and human cost of active participation in the war. It preserved national sovereignty amidst pressures from great powers. It positioned Turkey as an important player in the post-war balance of power, becoming a founding member of NATO in 1952. However, neutrality also limited Turkey's post-war influence and caused suspicion among some allies about its wartime loyalties. Turkey's World War II experience epitomizes the complexities of neutrality in a global conflict. Positioned between warring giants, Turkey's leaders executed a careful policy of survival, engaging in strategic diplomacy, military preparedness, and intelligence work to safeguard their nation. The neutrality on a knife's edge was not just about staying out of the war. It was about ensuring Turkey's independence, security, and future in an uncertain world. This delicate balancing act helped Turkey emerge from World War II intact and ready to navigate the Cold War's challenges ahead. Ask ChatGPT.